So now we bring it back to the improved process. With 9212 and later, you download the foundation, in this case like 15X. I think 152 is the latest one right now. Then you get the ADF apps you want, like if you wanted the Work Center, Studio, things of that nature. Again, I'm a big proponent, if you can, use the latest WebLogic releases, 12.2.1x. You know, that the other ones are going to go away eventually. They'll get sunset. And like I said, that way you don't have to deal with Orchestrator Studio only being on 12.2 and having a 12.1.3 server, dealing with that. Make sure you've got on your ADF server the Server Manager agent so it can talk to it. Again, I'm assuming you've done the steps to get your WebLogic Server Fusion middleware installed. So you've got a container, you got WebLogic there. Next step is we distribute the foundation, the app, and the orchestration. So Server Manager has managed software that you've downloaded. Then you have to distribute it to the server. So it's sitting there in the agent folder. Then we go through Server Manager Guide. There's actually 2 chapters, one on ADF, and chapter 20 is on Orchestrator Studio. Takes you right through it. You know, it's just click a few boxes and create an instance. And once we get to that point, once we got our container filled, and I put the JDBC drivers in. Technically, you don't have to do that. It's just I've done it so much for the web servers, it's just standard practice. Because if you forget to do your JDBC driver on your web servers, the web servers don't run very well. You know, can't talk to your database. Minor details, right? So then you'll be able to create your managed instance for your ADF apps. So here's a quick example. Again, on the ADF side, we fill in the prompts. Works out pretty nice. We have whichever ones we wanted. Again, once we distribute them, it's just a list and we select them. If we do the Studio, it's a separate instance. So Studio is a separate container from the ADF apps. So you will have, you know, one J2EE container for ADF, another J2EE for the Orchestrator Studio. Something to be aware of there. But the foundation, again, it's common between the two. You know, again, it's easy to get this sequence out. When I first did it, I did things in the wrong order. Of course, you don't find out until you get to the end. You're trying to do things and say, all right, I got to start all over. So hopefully the sequence that I've given you here and the highlights and the details and the Oracle docs will help you a lot there. It was a whole lot better than trying to go to 15 different documents. If you do have the separate resources to Wei Tin's question, I suggest a separate domain to be able to do that type of stuff. You know, again, suggested architecture, have a different Jazz instance for your web users versus your AIS and all that. Again, the key, Fusion middleware infrastructure and the JRF template, you got to have those to run ADF or the Orchestrator Studio. And again, remembering AIS increases the sessions, increases the call. So that's another reason why we want that separate Jazz server. Again, it'll work in one to a point. Again, if possible, definitely, I'm a big Server Manager fan. So try to be up at least on tools 9212 or later if you can. If you're going to do Orchestrator Studios version 5 or 6, depending on where you're at on your tools, you're going to have WebLogic 12.2.1x, like 12.2.1.2 or 12.2.1.3. 12.2.1.0 does work as well, but if I can get it patched up a little bit, I always try to, especially in this day and the age of all the different malware and everything else, the hacks that get to us. We have to patch these things. These security patches are even more important. If you expose these things to the internet, take those quarterly security patches. The whitelists, for the ADF container, Jazz security, and allowed host, you got to make sure all those are in sync. Bottom line is you just have to have the right URLs. And again, I've got that document ID. That came out just earlier this summer. And what that one does is they're giving you an example. You can do this, I did it in Firefox, but Chrome will work as well. But what's nice about it is you can bring up each of the URLs and through the debug see what it's calling. So you can actually copy and paste right into your whitelist that URL. So you'll get the right case, you'll get the right name, because again, depending on your network configuration, some things are out of your control. You might have a fully qualified name, you might have a short name, someone may have a host file and they put it in caps. So what you think you're putting in may not match what the network is returning depending on how those host names get returned. And like I said, I brought up the point again about the whitelist again, about the asterisk. One of the things, again, the cookie path, I just want to remind about that, the J session ID. Early releases on the JDK, again, they do 1.7. 1.7 is getting a little long in the tooth. Again, no security patches on it, so really consider 1.8. We'll be doing 1.9 pretty soon, I'm sure. Another one, I've seen this happen a couple times. Don't install your JAS or ADF or your AIS into your WebLogic domain, if you have, or BSSV domain, excuse me. BSSV uses different security providers, and it adds them. So, if you put an HTML server in that domain, that's why they always tell you put it in a different domain, because it'll break. It won't work. You won't be able to log in. So that's one of the little gotchas. I had a customer do that, and it worked, kind of, and then all of a sudden they'd try to log in and things weren't working correctly. Because again, the security providers that they put in the security realm were different. So just a warning there. Another one, this is a little, I'm hoping they'll get this fixed. This is one of those down the road, hopefully that's an enhancement. Right now though, like I said, there's 10 ADF applications. There used to be 7, there was 8. And every so often, of course, they get new versions. They'll put _ version 6, _ version 7. The ADF is not the same as like a tools where I can go in and click and say change component and just load a new level of the app. You actually have to go in and get rid of the instance. You have to delete the instance, and then you have to recreate it. It's not that bad. I mean, there's not a lot of ADF parameters. What I suggest is you get screenshots of all your settings and save the ADF file, INI, that's in your JD home on that server. Oh, well, the question, could I do it in parallel? Could I have, if you set up another J2EE container, but then the problem with that is you got to have different ports, because you can't have the same ports coming up at the same time. So if you're going to shut it down, but you could. Yeah, technically, if you want to do different ports and change things, you could put this container like on 7080 and put the next one on 8080 or whatever, and just bring it up. Or if you wanted to shut one down and just make sure you never started it, you could do it that way. The other thing I've learned, continuously go through my Oracle support, E1 docs. They do a really good job of updating the documentation and adding things to it. And new Learn JDE, they just updated that website, so it's a lot easier to search and find this information. So Oracle's definitely doing a better job of keeping you more informed. So that's one of the things I keep fighting with some of the consultants is make sure, go back out, look at the documentation. If you look online, like the upgrade docs or the install docs, a lot of times that number changes 3, 4, 5 times a year. So they're putting things in based on feedback and service requests and all that. So they're doing a really great job there.